Welcome back to a new episode of Marvel Man 901. This episode I'm going to talk about Deadpool and his limited series from 1993 called The Circle Chase. So it starts off with Deadpool being attacked by mercenaries in Sarajevo, which is in Yugoslavia. After killing them, he met Weasel and they went to the hideout. They talked a bit about Tolliver's will, which is this entire thing is actually about. Tolliver was this bad guy who was mysterious and very powerful at the same time, and after he died, so many people were out to get his belongings pretty much. He had loads of very special weapons, and apparently there's something mysterious about his will. They did, however, encounter Weapon X, which is not Wolverine, but Garrison Kane, Wolverine, and Deadpool were at the Weapon X program at approximately the same time. At least went through the same project. Meanwhile, in France, the Juggernaut was looking for his best friend, Black Tom Cassidy, who had been mysteriously disappeared. Meanwhile, a courier was hired by a guy called Nico to kill Deadpool. We'll find out more about this later on. However, now back in Sarajevo, Kane and Deadpool were fighting, both wanting to know more about where Copycat, Vanessa Cargyle, in the Deadpool movie, she's played by Marina Baccarin, where she was. So there was a lot of fighting and a lot of name calling, as you can imagine, and eventually Weasel decided to stop the fighting by telling both of them that neither of them had the information that they were fighting about. After this, Kane left. So Slayback, apparently this guy who Deadpool previously had supposedly killed, was now back again, and he wanted revenge on Deadpool. Now, at the same time, Black Tom Cassidy had been reunited with Juggernaut once again, but he was proven to be very sick by some malady that pretty much made half his body look like kind of wood. However, he joined Juggernaut to find Tolliver's will. In issue 2, Deadpool starts off by killing loads of mercenaries who were out to get a briefcase containing a disc about Tolliver's will. After killing these guys, he talked to the survivor, the guy who basically had the briefcase, and this person told him that the prize would be the most powerful weapon on the face of the planet. However, Deadpool couldn't get more information about this as Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy came along and Black Tom pretty much killed Deadpool, and then they took the briefcase. Meanwhile, Copycat has some words with Sluggo, apparently this mercenary type guy who knew her. Then she took his car. Also, meanwhile, the courier talked with a guy called Bashir about Nico. Apparently Nico was the brother of Tolliver's right-hand man who was killed a few months earlier. Some of the suspects of this crime were believed to be either Cable, Copycat or Deadpool, and Deadpool naturally seemed like the more obvious choice. Back to Deadpool again, he had pretty much recovered and went off to Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy, who were on an airplane. In mid-flight, they had a big fight, and Deadpool pretty much threw Black Tom Cassidy out of the airplane in mid-flight. And Juggernaut naturally went after to save his friend. And naturally, Deadpool hijacked their plane to get back to Sarajevo once again. In the last panel or last page of this issue, Kane is attacked by Slayback. Now in issue 3, Deadpool is back in Sarajevo once again, and he fights Rive and Makeshift. And the two women defeats Deadpool, and he is captured by Commcast, who was incidentally Bashir from the earlier issue. These three make out the executive elite. They wanted information on Tolliver's will, as it was also a bit of a mission for them. Meanwhile, Copycat had gone to talk to the courier, whose real name was Jacob Gavin, to get more information on Tolliver's will. Back to Deadpool once again. Commcast had used some of his machinery to get into Deadpool's memories to basically find out more about the Tolliver will. Weasel, however, showed up to rescue Deadpool, and then he cold-bloodedly killed Commcast. Deadpool killed both Rive and Makeshift, making the executive elite dead. Now Deadpool and Weasel had both the discs, and upon pretty much going through them, they found out that this monastery in Nepal had the prize that they were looking for, and apparently something called Zero was there. Now, if you read any of the X-Men issues, X-Men related issues before this, you might realize that Zero was actually part of the Mutant Liberation Front, which was pretty much controlled by Strife at this time. In the last panel or last page of this, Copycat was captured by Slayback. Now the final issue, issue 4, starts off in Nepal, where Deadpool and Weasel had entered this monastery. Deadpool beat some monks, and eventually they went in to find Zero and a lot of weapons. Slayback apparently was already there with the captured Copycat, and they could see Kane coming along as well. Kane went in to fight Deadpool, and they accidentally activated Zero. Slayback appeared with Copycat and naturally began to fight Deadpool for his revenge. Deadpool was very surprised to see his previously deceased foe, and naturally huge fight. In the meantime, Kane actually identifies Zero as an ADAM unit. Apparently ADAM stands for Algorithmic Wavelength Dampening Ambient Energy Absorbing Modular Unit. He explained to Weasel that this pretty much makes weapons useless, including beings, if they are threatening enough. Meanwhile, back in the fighting, Copycat sacrificed herself to save Deadpool, and both Slayback and Deadpool were very surprised by this. Before Slayback could continue to try to kill Deadpool, Zero had been charged fully now and actually just completely destroyed Slayback. Zero continued to scan around, destroying weapons as he went, and started to scan Weasel and felt that he was completely harmless, and he happily agreed that he indeed was harmless. It continued on to scan Garrison Kane and was very perplexed whether or not he was a threat, so it decided to wait with him and then start to scan Deadpool and feeling that he was definitely a threat. But as previously had been explained, that Copycat, her powers pretty much allowed her, if she had physical contact with someone, could gain some of their abilities for some time and their physique and stuff. Deadpool pretty much tried to convince Zero that he was not a threat, he was not a weapon, and he wanted to heal Copycat, which he kind of managed to do somewhat, at least saving a life. Zero accepted this and then left. Now in the final bit here, we can see Copycat with tears in her eyes, pretty much telling Deadpool that she still doesn't love him anymore, which is kind of heartbreaking in itself. So that's that. That's the entire Circle Chase story. I hope you've enjoyed all this, and I hope you will subscribe and share and like. Thank you all for listening.